Have you ever stopped to wonder how a single choice can permanently alter the future of an artificial intelligence?
Have you ever stopped to wonder what actually happens when a complex system hits a point of no return? And I mean any system, whether we're talking about a physical piece of metal, your own immune system, or even the incredibly advanced artificial intelligence we're building today. What happens when they reach that critical tipping point? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today we are diving deep into the hidden internal life of complex systems. We're going to uncover the invisible traces that get left behind when boundaries are crossed and explore how those exact traces can completely rewrite the future. So, what really happens after that point of no return? We all kind of share this common illusion that a threshold is, just a finish line. You push a system to its absolute limit, it crosses over that line, and we just assume it keeps going on its new path, internally unchanged. But the source material points out this genuinely fascinating reality that completely shatters that illusion. When a system encounters a true regime boundary, it doesn't just step over a line. It doesn't just react in the heat of the moment and then, forget about it. That encounter does something much deeper. It fundamentally alters the very DNA of how that system is going to behave from that exact moment forward. The big paradigm shift here is realizing that complex systems don't just cross boundaries. Those boundaries leave deep, permanent scars. After the encounter, the system is just no longer the exact same machine it was before, because the threshold doesn't merely trigger a temporary response, right? It literally encodes that response into the physical or mathematical structure of the system itself. This means that once a system has passed certain boundaries, its future trajectories aren't being drawn from the same map anymore. Something inside has fundamentally shifted. It's permanently altered its own future possibilities, even if, on the surface, that change is completely invisible to us. And that brings us to an absolutely vital concept from the text: structural memory. Now, when I say memory, think about a computer's hard drive. It explicitly saves files in folders, right? Structural memory doesn't work like that at all. The memory isn't some saved file. The system itself actually becomes the memory. By crossing that threshold, the system has subtly shifted its own internal probability landscape. It has reorganized its own architecture so that moving forward, certain actions become a whole lot easier and others become much, much harder. Let's actually ground this in some everyday reality. First, take physical hysteresis. If you take a metal paperclip and bend it way too far, it never snaps back perfectly, does it? The path it takes to recover is totally different from the path of bending. That metal has retained a structural trace of that stress. Second, think about biological immune memory. When your body gets exposed to a pathogen, it doesn't just fight it off and forget it ever happened. It structurally adapts. So the next time you encounter that exact same virus, your body's response is completely different. And third, path dependence in complex systems. Picture a fast-growing city where some early, seemingly minor zoning decisions permanently end up choking how traffic flows decades later. In every single one of these cases, the system's previous threshold encounters are strictly governing its future dynamics. Okay, so if these boundaries act as basically anchor points of structural memory, a massive question naturally follows. How exactly does a system rewrite its own internal rules without us actually seeing it happen? I mean, we know the paperclip is forever changed, we know the immune system adapts, but what is the actual underlying mechanical process going on under the hood? Well, the source material gives us this brilliant, easy-to-understand breakdown of the encoding mechanism in 3 distinct steps. First up is probability redistribution. Imagine the landscape tilting, kind of like rain falling on an uneven ground. Some pathways subtly become statistically favored, while others become harder to reach. Second is reinforcement channel formation. The water starts to carve a channel, reinforcing a very specific path. That first trickle makes a tiny groove, and the next time it rains, the water naturally finds that groove, carving it a bit deeper. Soon enough, the water has absolutely no choice but to flow down that deep ravine. And third, constraint reshaping. The ground itself is now permanently altered. It forces all future rain into that canyon. The actual geometry of the system is modified, completely changing how it resists any new disturbances. But as you can probably guess, this creates a really fascinating problem for us. If this structural encoding is happening entirely within the internal, totally invisible dynamics of a system, how on earth are we supposed to observe it? We can't just directly look at an internal probability field shifting. We can't put a complex algorithm under a microscope. But, and here's the kicker, just like we can't literally see the wind, we can definitely see the trees bending. We can spot the external warning signs that tell us the invisible, internal landscape has been deeply, permanently altered. So here is exactly how we spot those warning signs. We track the evolving behavior of the system's trajectories over time. First, we look for trajectory bias. After a threshold is crossed, you'll see the system clearly start favoring those reinforced, carved-out channels. It shows a really consistent directional preference. Second, response asymmetry. This one is super interesting. If you poke the system from two different directions with the exact same amount of force, it reacts differently. It might brush off one disturbance instantly, but struggle massively with the other, purely because of those hidden internal structures. And finally, the most dangerous signal of all, reduced adaptability. The system's range of flexible responses drastically narrows. It loses its bounds. It gets visibly stuck in its ways, approaching what we call a rigidity regime. Now, let's take all of this and shift the stakes directly to something incredibly relevant today. Because this isn't just about bent paper clips or abstract math theories. This is fundamentally about the massive trap currently facing the large language models powering our world right now. As these systems process data and interact with us, they are actively carving these mental grooves. Right this second, they are constantly undergoing structural encoding. To really grasp why this is a trap, we have to look at how these AI systems actually function. They do not operate as static, rule-based machines. It's not like a calculator where you type in a command and get a pre-programmed answer. Their behavior unfolds through sequential probabilistic inference. Put simply, this means every single word they generate literally carves the path for the next one. They are constantly wandering through this massive landscape of probabilities, and every choice digs a deeper groove. They are constantly rewriting their own landscape, making those frequently used pathways super easy to follow, while making alternative ideas statistically invisible. So when we look at AI through this framework, we essentially see a battle between two different states of being. Over on the left, we have the ideal state, the elastic regime. This is where the system is responsive, it's light, it's adaptable, and it can flexibly handle totally new, weird, or unexpected prompts. But over on the right, that's where unchecked reinforcement leads us, the rigidity regime. This is where the dynamics have stabilized the system's behavior along a highly narrow set of pathways. The AI basically becomes heavy, it gets constrained, and it gets locked into those deep canyons it has carved for itself, rendering it utterly unable to adapt. And this brings us to an absolutely urgent consequence. If we leave this entirely unchecked, these reinforcement dynamics will naturally and inevitably push probabilistic AI systems straight toward total structural rigidity. It's just a matter of time. They will drift into this state where, sure, they might be incredibly efficient at a very narrow set of tasks, but they will have completely lost their ability to flexibly respond to new data or shifting contexts. They will literally be trapped in the canyons of their own making. But the source material provides a really profound answer to this trap. It says, complex systems survive not because reinforcement is absent, but because counterbalancing dynamics exist within their structure. I mean, just think about nature for a second. Biological systems don't run on endless runaway positive feedback loops. They have built-in regulatory processes that continuously push back just to preserve their adaptability. If we want our AI to remain useful and adaptable, we can't just try to put band-aids on its external outputs. We have to introduce an active, balancing force into its very architecture. And honestly, that leaves us standing on the edge of a massive frontier. If trajectory reinforcement naturally pushes a system toward rigidity, what exactly is the counterforce? What kind of structural mechanisms could we possibly build into a probability field to modulate these dynamics and maintain true elastic responsiveness? Well, the source text calls this the structural counterforce, and it might literally be the only way to save AI from itself. But how does it actually work in practice? We are going to unpack that deeply in our next explainer. Thanks so much for exploring this with me.